Press your palm flat against the floor you're standing on. That's what a human spine slept on for roughly 300,000 years. No mattress, no pillow, no memory foam that remembers you better than your family does. Just dirt, grass, maybe a hide if you were lucky. And somewhere between 80 and 90% of adults in wealthy countries will report back pain at some point in their lives, while surveys of hunter-gatherer and subsistence farming groups keep coming back with numbers that don't match ours at all. Something got worse. The strange part is that it got worse right around the time we made lying down comfortable. This is a story about hip sockets, hardwood floors, a sleep lab in Los Angeles, and a Bronze Age scribe who was already complaining about his back. Start with the thing nobody wants to hear. The bed is not ancient. Elevated sleeping platforms show up in the archaeological record about 77,000 years ago at Sibutu Cave in South Africa, where Lynn Wadley and her team found compacted layers of sedge stems mixed with crushed leaves from a plant called Cryptocarya woodii, which happens to repel mosquitoes. That's genuinely clever. It's also about 10 centimeters thick. This is not a mattress. It's a mat with ambitions. The people using it were still lying essentially on the ground, with a bug-proof salad between them and the rock. And that's the earliest bedding anyone has found. Before Sibutu, the record goes quiet, which doesn't mean nobody padded their sleep plant matter rots, and absence of grass is not evidence of absence. But it does mean that for the overwhelming majority of our species' existence, the surface underneath a sleeping human was hard, uneven, and cold. Anatomically, modern humans have been around roughly 300,000 years. Soft sleeping, in any recognizable form, covers a sliver at the end of that. So either our ancestors spent thousands of generations in agony, or we've badly misunderstood what a spine actually wants. Here's where the obvious answer collapses. You'd assume they were just tougher, higher pain tolerance, shorter lives, no time to complain. Except pain isn't a character trait, it's a signal, and there are people alive right now running the old experiment. Jerome Siegel at UCLA and his colleagues put activity monitors on the Hadza in Tanzania, the San in Namibia, and the Tsimane in Bolivia, and published the results in 2015. These are groups without electricity, without mattresses, sleeping on hides or thin mats on the ground. The headline finding was that they sleep about 6.5 hours a night, less than most people assume, and often less than the anxious office worker convinced he's failing at rest. What the researchers didn't report was a population crippled by morning back stiffness. Meanwhile, a separate line of work has looked at spinal complaints in subsistence populations and found rates that sit well below industrialized ones. Though the comparison is genuinely messy, different diagnostic criteria, different willingness to report, different life expectancy. Nobody should pretend that's a clean result, but the direction is consistent enough that the "they were just stoic" explanation stops being interesting. The ground wasn't torturing them, the ground was doing something for them. To see what, you have to look at how they lie down, because it is nothing like what you do. Sleep on a hard floor in the position you use on your mattress, flat on your back, legs straight, and you'll be awake in 40 minutes with your sacrum screaming. That position only works because a mattress deforms around you. On hard ground, humans across every documented culture curl, side-lying with the knees drawn up, one arm under the head, the top leg often crossed forward. The Hadza sleep this way. So do infants everywhere, without being taught. That curl is not a coping mechanism. It's the posture that puts the least strain on the lumbar discs, because flexing the hips releases the psoas, the muscle that runs from your lower spine over the front of the pelvis into the thigh, and a relaxed psoas stops pulling your lower vertebrae forward. Your mattress has quietly stolen that from you. Because it deforms, it lets you sleep flat and splayed, in a position no unsupported human body would ever choose. Every night, you spend 8 hours in a shape your ancestors physically could not hold. Comfort didn't fix the posture problem. Comfort made a bad posture survivable. Now, Watch what happens the other 23 hours. Anthropologists have a name for the way people sit in societies without furniture. They call them resting postures. And Gordon Hughes cataloged more than 1,000 of them in a 1955 survey of ethnographic photographs and reports. Deep squat, kneeling, cross-legged, one knee up, sitting on the heels. What they share is that the hip and knee joints keep moving through their full range all day long, and the muscles that stabilize the lower back never get to switch off. David Reichlin and colleagues put heart rate and movement monitors on Hadza adults and found they were inactive for a comparable number of hours to Americans. That's the surprise everyone quotes. But the resting was different in kind. They use squatting and kneeling rests, which keep the leg muscles loaded even while at rest, rather than the fully supported chair sit, and the paper argued this may explain part of why their cardiovascular markers stay clean. The relevance to backs is simple. A body that squats to rest arrives at bedtime with mobile hips. A body that sits in a padded chair for 11 hours arrives at bedtime with hips that have forgotten how to flex, and a lower back that has been quietly doing the hips job all day. Then it lies down on a soft mattress that asks nothing of it either. So, the bed isn't the villain on its own. It's the last chair of the day. And it might be the least honest one, because it's the only piece of furniture that has convinced people it's healthcare. Here's the part that should have been obvious a century ago. The firm mattress advice everyone repeats: bad back. Get a hard mattress was tested properly in Spain by Francisco Kovacs and his team, published in the Lancet in 2003. 313 people with chronic, non-specific low back pain, randomized, given either a firm mattress or a medium firm one, and neither the patients nor the assessors knew which was which. The medium firm group did better on pain in bed, pain on rising, and disability, not the firm one. Read that carefully, because it cuts both ways and the internet always butchers it. It does not say hard ground is bad. There was no ground condition. It says that among manufactured mattresses, the very firm end lost, which quietly demolished a piece of medical folk wisdom that doctors had been handing out for decades with total confidence. And it left a much stranger question sitting there, unanswered. If neither hard nor soft is the fix, then firmness was never the variable. Everyone spent 30 years arguing about the wrong axis, which brings in the thing that actually changed. Not the surface. The clock, on the ground, in a group, with predators around, sleep in mobile foraging societies is fragmented by design. Siegel's teams recorded that nobody in the Hadza camp was asleep simultaneously for more than about 18 minutes across the entire night. Somebody is always up. Fires need tending, infants wake. Older adults with shifted circadian rhythms take the late shift. Frederick Snyder proposed the sentinel logic back in 1966, and the Hadza data gave it teeth. Fragmented sleep sounds like a defect. For a spine, it's maintenance. Every time you stir, shift, roll from one hip to the other, you're redistributing pressure and pumping fluid through the intervertebral discs, which have no blood supply of their own and depend on movement and load changes to feed themselves. 8 unbroken hours in one position is not the deepest rest available to a human. It's the longest a human has ever gone without turning over. We took a body built to be interrupted and finally gave it a night with no interruptions, then sold it as an achievement. You can date the moment we started sleeping badly, and it's much older than the mattress industry. Clay tablets from Mesopotamia, the medical texts from Nineveh, and elsewhere in the Assyrian and Babylonian record include incantations and treatments for pain in the lower back and the hips, thousands of years before anyone had a box spring. The Edwin Smith surgical papyrus from Egypt, copied around the 16th century BC from an older text, contains a case of a sprained spinal vertebra described with a clinician's flat precision. So the bed didn't invent back pain. Agriculture got there first. Skeletons from early farming populations across the Levant and Europe show elevated rates of spinal degeneration compared with the foragers who came before them. Schmorl's nodes, vertebral compression, the marks of hauling grain and grinding it on your knees for hours a day. Farming introduced the first job with a fixed posture. And here's the twist that goes almost unnoticed. Those same early farming settlements are where raised sleeping platforms start becoming common. At Çatalhöyük in Turkey, around 9,000 years ago, people built plastered platforms into their houses and buried their dead underneath them. The bed and the bad back arrived together in the same room, and one of them was already being blamed for the other. Now push past the spine, because the ground was doing something else you've never been told about. Sleeping on a hard, cool surface changes your body temperature, and core temperature drop is the strongest physiological trigger for sleep onset there is. A ground-sleeping human is dumping heat all night into a surface that never warms up. A mattress does the opposite. It insulates you, traps heat against your skin, and a memory foam one is essentially a padded thermos. That matters because Siegel's field recordings found that Hadza, San, and Simane sleep timing tracked ambient temperature more tightly than it tracked light. They fell asleep as the night cooled and woke near the temperature minimum. Before dawn, their bodies were reading the ground. We removed the signal, then wondered why we lie awake. There is a running joke in that, and it isn't much of a joke. People now buy cooling mattress toppers, temperature-regulating sheets, and water-circulating pads to reintroduce, at 300 quid a go, the exact thermal profile of lying on cold dirt. The bed also did something to your hips that no one measures. Squat, kneel, sit cross-legged on a floor, and every one of those transitions is loaded hip flexion and extension through end range. A survey of resting postures across non-industrial societies finds the deep squat almost universal, and in most industrialized adults, that position is now unavailable. Not painful, unavailable. Ankle dorsiflexion won't allow it. Once you lose the squat, you lose the only way to get off the ground without using your hands and knees, which means you lose the reason to be on the ground at all, which means bed and chair become the only two options your body can operate. Physiotherapists sometimes describe this as a mobility trap, and the term is descriptive rather than a formal diagnosis. But the mechanism is straightforward. The furniture removed a movement, the missing movement removed the furniture's alternative, and the loop closed. Your spine now takes the load your hips refuse to. Here's the seated twist, and it's the least comfortable idea in this whole story. The mattress industry's central promise is support a surface that holds your spine in perfect alignment so nothing has to work. That is the exact opposite of what a disc wants. Discs are avascular. They're fed by imbibition, fluid moving in and out as pressure changes, which is why you're measurably taller in the morning and shrink by roughly 1 to 2 centimeters over a day. Perfect, unchanging support means unchanging pressure. It means the pump stops. The bare ground was uncomfortable enough to make you move, cold enough to time your sleep, and hard enough that you had to curl. Every one of those irritations was doing a job. We identified them as flaws and engineered them out one by one, with genuine good intentions and pretty good marketing, and the result is a species that lies perfectly still on a warm slab for 8 hours and wakes up stiff. Nobody is suggesting you throw the mattress out. Kovacs's trial is real, and Firm didn't win. The point is quieter than that. The discomfort of the ground was never the problem to be solved. It was the last piece of movement in a body that had already stopped squatting, stopped kneeling, stopped waking to tend a fire at 3 in the morning while someone else took over the watch. Somewhere in Tanzania tonight, a Hadza adult will lie down on a hide over packed earth, pull their knees up, and stir 18 or 20 times before dawn without ever waking properly. In the morning, nobody will mention their back. You'll wake on a surface designed by engineers to make sure you never had to move at all. And the first thing you'll do is reach for the spot above your hip and press it, the way people do, as if you could find the fault by touch. That ache isn't a message from your mattress. It's a message from the ground you stopped sleeping on.